Hi there, Mike O'Connor back again. And today the subject is ad attention. Where are consumers paying most attention to commercial messaging? Is it TV? Is it mobile apps? Is it connected TV? Is it radio? Is it outdoor? We have those answers for you. I'm joined today by our head of business development, Roger Malinowski, a relatively new addition to the NuVoodoo team of a decade and a half. You've been here now, what, about 3 years?
Yeah, just about 3 years.
And just a quick story about how you got here, because I think it's kind of fascinating. A little tragic, but fascinating.
Well, yeah, COVID kind of sucked the life out of the business I was in at the moment, which was experiential marketing, event marketing. So that shut down for the better part of a year and a half. Found myself moving over to the digital side. So happy to be here.
So a lot of what we do at NuVoodoo is we do tons of consumer research, and that then fuels various marketing strategies. And Roger talks to all sorts of different clients from different industries. I mostly talk to media, but Roger handles packaged goods and political and consumer
Healthcare.
brand. I mean, you're doing mugs, you're doing groceries, delivery. There's nothing you can't do, right?
We're all over, Mike. Everywhere you want to be.
Just, no more crypto for a while, I guess.
Yeah, we're taking a pause.
Yeah. Okay. So let's get into the data here. So the study that we're referring to was conducted in January, nationwide sample of way over 5,000 14 to 54-year-old persons. This was an online compensated sample and sample balance based on geography, age, gender. And of course, we broke things down and balanced by generation, but a couple of caveats. Generation Z, which I understand, Roger, we have a lot of interest these days in how to reach the under 26-year-olds.
Yeah, absolutely. Very big. A lot of requests coming in for how to reach that particular demographic. So
fairly represented here. We can't talk to folks under the age of 13. So we have to kind of stick to the older end of Generation Z, but that's the one that advertisers care the most about because they're the ones who start to spend the money. And Gen X, of course, will cut off at 54 because a lot of our media clients like to buy the 25-54 demographic, and that's where they want us to spend the money. And so we do, but you can really extrapolate out Gen X to about my age, which is not quite 60. This is where you're supposed to say, I don't look it.
Oh, you don't look it. I missed that part of the script. Yeah, my bad.
All right. So what I like about the fact that we do these studies every 6 months is that we get a nice beat every couple of quarters about where consumers are at. So, Roger, the first thing I'd point out is that really the top dogs haven't changed that much.
No, I'm not surprised at all. Google, YouTube, Facebook, the Meta platforms there, Facebook and Instagram combined. They're at the top of pretty much everything we see here.
So we measure the how often you pay attention to ads. So it's sort of that, how often do you engage, to 1 to 6 scale. And then we take what are called the top 2 boxes. So the people who check a 5 or a 6 would represent the highly ad attuned. And then we take that as a percentage of the total sample in this case, and then we're trending that over time. So you're seeing, about a third of the audience says that they care enough about advertising, which obviously that's a pretty tough putt. People don't like to sit through ads. So the channels that can deliver a good 30 to 40% engagement, I'd call those foundational to pretty much every client strategy.
Yeah, I would say probably all of our clients have some combination of those platforms. So
yep.
Obviously mixing in other tactics and strategies, but as a baseline, those 4 for sure.
Yep. We're using search engine marketing and on Google. And of course, Google also has a display network. So every time you Google something, little display ads pop up as you go to websites, and they've got a huge network, and they can deliver outstream ads and display ads and these new kind of interesting versions of display ads that kind of adapt to mobile phones called display responsive that we use a ton of. And of course, YouTube has so many different ways to engage. We've got the True View ad where you're just paying. You only pay if somebody watches for 30 seconds or longer. There's so many other ad units. There's little 6-second bumper videos. And then now they've actually introduced some audio ad units, believe it or not.
Yeah, and we have a tool in our belt that's contextual targeting within YouTube. I'd love to tell you more about.
Oh yeah, that's some ad tech in our stack. You should explain how that works. That's pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It actually determines based on the audio from the video that you've searched for that you're about to engage in. It analyzes that audio for keywords, and so if there's a high relevance for the keywords that you've plugged in, it will actually serve an ad for your product in front of that video. So it's that's why they call it contextual. It's really relevant to the audience it's about to watch.
Yeah, that way you're guaranteed that the subject matter of the video that your pre-roll is rolling into actually is relevant, because that's a good way around the cookie problem now, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yep. So if you're looking for folks that really care about what's going on in Ukraine, there's several video bloggers. You can put all of their YouTube channels into that contextual keyword finder in our ad tech and get a really precise reach out of that audience, just as a hypothetical.
Absolutely.
Okay, so these are the trends. Most of our advertisers narrow their playing field a little bit. We'll show you a few different segments here. We'll do it by gender and then by the 3 generations. The good news, Roger, is people your age, millennials. I don't know whether this is just because you guys are digital natives and grow up with this stuff, so you pay attention to all of it much more than anyone else, or is it because you're just in the demographic sweet spot and the advertisers are more relevant to you?
Well, first of all, I appreciate you putting me in that category. I'm not going to say whether I'm technically in it or not, but
Well, you don't look it.
You remembered. Good. No, I think the digital native side of things, you grow up with it around you and, in your hand. It's just available and we're used to it. So I think that plays a big role in it.
And I see here in this study, like our consumer packaged goods studies, for those of you who visited NuVoodoo.com/webinars and saw that 8-part series that we did, the men are definitely more persuadable. It turns out when we look at brand switching in the consumer packaged goods, retail food industry, for example, they're far more likely to try something new if it's offered at a discount or it's a new product that's introduced. So
I wasn't surprised by that either, Mike. I happen to be one of those people that's susceptible to those ads. So
some corroborating data. And of course, Gen Z, very tough to reach. In a way that's relevant. Now, some of you might be asking, well, why the heck did they leave TikTok out? And there's a reason for that. We had to wait for TikTok to get to a certain threshold where our crosstabs would be relevant enough to the sample for us to feel good about the data. But what we did get back about the amount of times people are on TikTok, especially the Gen Zs, it's like 1 in 3 are using TikTok out 4 or more times every day, 30 times a week on average. So that means that's going to translate into big TikTok ad recall numbers, I would guess. I mean, they've got the I bought it thanks to TikTok, or I heard it on TikTok, whatever that is.
That's a whole thing. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. That's a whole thing. And I'm sure that will come out when we do the study again in June. So for now, we have to infer that TikTok is probably a pretty good purchase. And, I think that's our job as your kind of in-house experts, is that we mix and match the channels and tactics that are most relevant to the mission at hand.
Yeah, and based on data too. So every client's custom. We don't set it and forget it. We're never rinse and repeat. Everything's very customized. So we understand your audience based on the research that we have or can get for you. And we develop a plan and strategy for how to reach them based on all of that data.
There's a couple of tactics here that I think I could share that have been more successful than not. I think you talked about it earlier. We're seeing a lot of YouTube success, but we're also mixing that with connected TV.
Yeah, it just makes sense. We're seeing a big trend in people that are watching YouTube, accessing the YouTube app through their home televisions. So it just makes sense to have that as a connected part of the strategy.
Yep, that's right. So YouTube is a walled garden, of course, not purchasable on the ad exchanges, but most connected TV is bought programmatically. So between those 2 channels, you really are reaching a significant portion, especially of the cord connecting millennial and Gen Z generation. And the other one I'd point out, we mentioned, or when we were looking at trends, maybe we didn't point this out and should have, that radio and outdoor were 2, let me just go back because I think this is important. Radio and outdoor, let me actually do this one. Radio and outdoor, these guys definitely spike to higher levels seasonally than we've seen before. And I think that's for real. And I think you mentioned a good reason why that's true.
Yeah, I think we're all back in our cars and we're commuting back to the offices to a larger degree, certainly. So noticing those ads and remembering those ads that are out there, hearing them in your car during your commute, I think that's legitimate.
The second one I'd mention, so because of that, mixing audio and mixing digital outdoor.
Yeah, get them
Something
on
we
the
can do.
commute.
We can actually make the outdoor buy so that it's showing up in heavier media weight on inbound commutes, and then we can flip that around and reach the commuting audience in the afternoon. And so between the two of those things, it makes some sense to to mix and match those and to reach the out of home audience, especially in the car while they're commuting to work.
No doubt.
So, Roger, as we wrap things up here, you mentioned the research kind of feeds everything we do. We can do client research, or you can share the data we just shared with you is just such a small sliver of the amount of depth that you can offer somebody. So we can really get into the weeds with a client from a particular category.
Yeah, these are big studies, and they do inform quite a bit in terms of where people are, where they're spending their time, where they recall ads, what's going to actually engage them enough to consider a purchase, make a purchase, those kinds of things. So we follow the data. There's no question about that. And as I mentioned before, everything is customized. So there's no boilerplate, rinse and repeat. Every client's different. Every audience is different. And so all of our recommendations and strategies will be based on the data that we have.
Yep. So, Roger, somebody wants to see the research, get in touch with you, maybe learn about some, mix and match solutions that might make sense to them. Best way to reach you?
Roger@NuVoodoo.com. You can also hit the greater group, Tell Me More at NuVoodoo.com.
And I'm Mike at NuVoodoo.com, your host of NuVoodoo Live. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again for the next one.
NuVoodoo builds digital products and conducts research and marketing campaigns for clients.
It's easy to get in touch. Drop us a line at tellmemore@NuVoodoo.com.